Wow, so much anime! This video is just going to be a quick summary of my thoughts on the full 2015 anime that I have watched over the weekend, and my thoughts on which ones were winners and which ones weren't exactly winners. I of course focused on science fiction anime, and the first one I watched was Heavy Objects. Now, this is one of those anime that could have gone either way. It could have gone really good, like the objects that the description mentioned looked interesting. It was a new take on mecha design, or it could have gone the opposite way. It could have gone really badly. You can never really tell with mecha because mecha, it's one of those genres that's quite generic. It's all the same. It all comes down to the execution. I think with Heavy Objects, it was kind of a 50-50 for me. I liked the comedy parts. Most of the comedy did work. I know some people did say that the fan service in this was really terrible and offensive, but it made me laugh, so I suppose that's a good thing. On the other hand, it's kind of weird from a scripting standpoint. I mean, the pacing of this first episode was very strange. There was a moment where two of the main characters were talking and it was intercut with shots of the girl character having a shower. What the fuck? So yeah, really odd pacing, fanservice hitting you, but it was sparse fanservice, and we also got to have a little bit of mecha action. But yeah, the pacing was really odd. We'll have to see in episode 2 if the pacing will affect the episodes in a bad way, and if the fanservice will affect the episodes, because it is possible that the fanservice will just become terrible. Again, 50-50, we'll see how it goes in episode 2. The next one I watched, and this was the one that I was the most hyped for, is Asterisk War. The idea of it was pretty good. I mean, students with lots of technology and they duel each other. I mean, the trailer was pretty badass stuff and it looked nice. I thought, yes, that is going to be the anime that is going to be just so kick-ass and badass. But unfortunately, speaking of ass, this anime turned out to be a fan service anime, and it was so strange. I was expecting this to be just, you know, a straightforward school anime with badass science fiction, and yet when I watched the first episode, it was so full of close-ups of women's boobs and butts. What the hell? I really wasn't expecting this to be a fanservice anime. It doesn't seem like it's going to be a fanservice anime. It looks like a science fiction anime that's going to be focusing on technology and characters. But no, it had all this, you know, close-ups, and oh my goodness, what was the point of the close-ups? They did not help the story. It did not help the episode whatsoever. So it was just pointless fanservice every few seconds. So unfortunately, the first episode was quite off-putting. We'll just have to see in episode 2 if the fanservice continues to be that frequent. And if it is that frequent, I'm probably not going to continue with Asterisk War. I don't want an anime where the fanservice distracts from the science fiction. And next is Comet Lucifer, the last anime I reviewed for fall 2015 in terms of impressions, and it was the most empty first episode. It felt like nothing happened. There just wasn't any fresh and new ideas, or at least ideas that hit you. And I noticed this even more today because I just watched the first episode of Denu Coil, a previous science fiction mystery anime, and that first episode of Denu Coil was so full of ideas and it was great. But Comet Lucifer had very few ideas that hit you. The only thing I really remember is the forced marriage and the mecha that just appeared out of fucking nowhere, killing an innocent person. And those two things were very quick. So the first episode is actually quite forgettable. It just did not have enough ideas. I'm hoping in the second episode there are going to be more ideas introduced, but the first episode was empty in my opinion. Next is the winner Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans. Now this was the anime I was kind of worried about because the trailer, it had the main character kid, he looks like a fucking stereotype, young and energetic kid, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is going to be so empty and all the characters are going to be military robots, they're going to be robotic characters, so what is the point of watching them? Although I was attracted to the idea of hand-drawn mechs. So this was the one I was the most worried about, and would you believe it? The first episode of this was fucking fantastic. It was so much better than I thought it would be. First of all, it had charm. It actually had charm, and the charm came from all the macho stuff, like the guys would pilot the mecha suits topless, and there's lots of bullying, and there's lots of characters trying to keep their pride, even though they're being bullied all the time, and I thought that was very, very interesting. Had a very macho charm to it, and that kind of charm is sustainable for a full 26, 27, whatever episode long series. If it keeps that up, then this is going to be a great series, you know, the charm worked, the action was good, and I liked the hand-drawn mechs, and I also liked the characters, you know, the main character that I was worried about, he actually turned out to be quite an interesting character, because even though he's small, he's quite superior. Gundam or Iron-Blooded Orphans definitely had the best first episode. If I was to rank them, I'd probably say that Comet Lucifer is probably the one that I wasn't the most interested in. Heavy Object, that had ideas, and it's kind of tied with Asterisk War. I mean, they both had fan service, which kind of distracted me from the ideas that it had. So I'm kind of in the middle. But definitely, Gundam is the winner, and I will definitely continue watching that series. I can predict that I'm going to drop at least one of them in terms of episode reviews, so I will continue my reviews for Aquarion logos. I like Aquarion logos, it's quite character-based. Yes, the mecha stuff is completely ridiculous, but if you look at Aquarion logos as a character-based anime, then it's actually pretty good in my eyes. So yeah, that is my summary of the full 2015 anime that I've watched, and hopefully Gundam will continue to be awesome. And maybe, just maybe, Comet Lucifer will have interesting ideas thrown at me in the second episode, and Heavy Objects and Asterisk War will cut back on the fan service and let us focus on the science fiction elements.